morning. We're so excited to be with you, and we want you to sing out with us because it's the fourth Sunday in Advent, the Sunday of joy. This one's by Marcy Baruch. Could hear you and feel you all the way through the airwaves. And now we're going to sing one of my favorite Christmas classics. This one's a spiritual. All right. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. While shepherds kept their watching, or silent flocks by night, behold, throughout the heavens there shone a holy light. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. The shepherds feared and trembled when low above the earth rang out the angel chorus that hailed our Savior's birth. Oh, tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Down in a lonely manger, our humble Christ was born, and God sent us salvation, that blessed Christmas morn. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born, that Jesus Christ is born, that Jesus Christ is born. Woo! All right now. We've got clapping hands in the back. Good morning and welcome to Columbine Spiritual Center. We're centered in God. What do? We celebrate a world of harmony, peace, and abundance for all. We're so glad that you're with us this morning, and we are excited to feature an all Columbine lineup of special music, starting with our dear friend, Bill Holmes. Come on up, Bill.
surprised at where this road had taken him. 'Cause never in a million lives would he have dreamed of Bethlehem. And standing at the manger, he saw with his own eyes the message from the angels come alive. And Joseph said, "Why me? I'm just a simple man of trade. Why here with all the rulers in the world? Why here inside this stable filled with hay? Why her? She's just an ordinary girl." Now I'm not one to second guess what angels have to say, but this is such a strange way to save the world. To think of how it could have been if Jesus had come as he deserved. There would have been no Bethlehem, no lowly shepherds at his birth. But Joseph knew the reason love had to reach so far. And as he held the Savior in his arms, he must have thought, "Why me? I'm just a simple man of trade. Why here with all the rulers in the world? Why here inside this stable filled with hay? Why her? She's just an ordinary girl." Now I'm not one to second guess what angels have to say, but this is such a strange way to save the world. Now I'm not one to second guess what angels have to say, but this is such a strange way to save the world. This is such a strange way, such a strange way, a strange way to save the world.
Bill Holmes, everyone. Beautiful. Woo!
Thank you, Bill. Beautiful. Perfect way to start this Sunday. If you've been with us, we've been struggling with lighting our Advent candles, so we switched back to the old style of matches this time. What do all these candles represent? Well, we start out with the Christ candle, our very nature. And then we go around the circle in the way that it supports us in opening to the Christ. We can start really anywhere. With faith, peace, love. And today, joy. And so I invite you to take a nice deep breath with me. Oh, as maybe too deep of a breath. I just blew one of the candles out. I'll take less of a deep breath. The joy of, you know what? It wasn't actually my breath. It's the candle. Let's just see if it'll light. And so as we begin that process, right, of becoming present to ourselves, present to the spirit that we are, we recognize the power of these qualities and capacities of spirit within us. No matter what's going on in our lives and the world around us, and we know there's plenty going on, I invite you to just bring your attention to the spirit within. That spirit that is always working to help us to break forth from the ideas and the set patterns of living that we have that hold us back. Those qualities that are ready to burst forth from those strong emotional reactions that we have to our life, like our fear, our hurt, our pain, our grief. And to remind us that we are the very light. We are an individualized expression of God. And as such, life is meant to be experienced fully as peace, love, and joy. And it is our individual faith that allows us to step out in ways that connect us with the wonder and the surprise of life. And so this morning we bring to mind our personal prayer lists and this prayer list that we maintain here at Columbine. It's out every Tuesday by email, enveloping those people and those circumstances in love, in support, sending our presence to support each and every one of them, knowing that God is in charge and that all is well. For this opportunity to come together this morning and to be reminded of who and what we are as spiritual beings, we give thanks. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Well, now we have a very special treat in store for you. Welcoming up my dear friend Bonnie Livengood, along with Lois Chambers and Amelia Roberts, incredible members of the Columbine music team and Voce, which you'll get to hear on Christmas Eve. And we're going to do a Christmas blessing.
The warmth of home.
you so much. Merry Christmas.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Today we get to talk about what delights us in life. We get to talk about those joyful moments. And it occurred to me as I was reflecting on this talk that in some ways, it may seem inappropriate to be talking about joy in a time when so many people are dying, so many people are hurting, there's a lot of grief in the field, a lot of not knowing. It's a challenging time. But the interesting thing about joy, as actually with any spiritual quality, is that it rises through these experiences. That joy can surprise us. That joy has the power to transcend what's happening in our lives and to remind us that we're spiritual beings. That in many ways we live beyond or have the potential of living beyond. How can it be that joy can transcend the pain, for example, that we're feeling? Well, Roger Teal, many of you know the name Roger Teal. I think his title now is Minister Emeritus of Mile High Center for Spiritual Living. Roger, in his book, This Life is Joy, says, lasting spiritual joy is our divine birthright. Lasting spiritual joy is our divine birthright. And by that, he means that joy is a quality of our true nature. It is an essential quality of who and what we are. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's contrast it to grief or pain or disappointment or a sense of betrayal, any of the very intense, if you will, human experiences we can have. Those are emotional states. Those are states that are brought on by our reaction to what's happening in our life. Some of them are more universal. They are natural responses. Some of them are caused by our unique history and how we react to what's happening in our lives. In contrast, joy, and for that matter, peace and love, are spiritual qualities. These are qualities that cannot be damaged, cannot be taken away from us, cannot be destroyed by what's happening in our lives. There is always some spiritual state or some spiritual quality supporting us at any one time. Doesn't mean that we're always aware of it. If we're deeply invested in who and what we are from a human standpoint, we can cover them up. But they're always there and always ready to support us. So, all the qualities we inherit as spiritual beings have the power to transcend the situations in our lives. And joy is no exception. I live with a guy who has tremendous access to joy. He finds joy in the simple things in life, and he celebrates that joy. However, He is not a morning person. And there's a chuckle going on here in the sanctuary. So I think many of you know what I mean when I say he's not a morning person, or maybe you yourself are not a morning person. You could put that in the chat. Yeah, not a morning person. So you know then what it's like at our house in the morning. Not allowed to turn lights on in the bedroom. I have had to memorize where everything in my dresser is. Speaking in a regular voice is too loud. No sudden moves. And if you watch my partner Stuart, and coffee is set up the night before and automatically brews, right? So in the morning, he looks a bit like a zombie moving towards our great room, I would call it, our kitchen living area combined. But you know, our windows faced north and east. And if the sun is rising, and I'm still in the bedroom, all of a sudden I will hear, now this is from the zombie, "Oh my God, it is beautiful out here. You've got to come see this, Scott." Just a fun little example of how when we open ourselves up to this flow of joy, when we begin to orient it, joy has a way of inviting us out of the way that we have always labeled ourselves, identified ourselves, and reminded us that we are actually the life of Spirit in action. So for Stuart, it might be more powerful to say, yeah, my preference is to sit in my bedroom, in the quiet, in the dark, drinking 2 cups of coffee. But if life requires, or if life calls, I can spring to action and meet the needs of that moment. This is the beautiful reminder of our joy, of peace, of love. So it begs the question, a couple of questions. One of them is, what then exactly does joy do for opening us to the birth of the Christ? Joy points us to what we love. The things that bring us joy are inevitably things that touch us in our heart center. And it brings that desire to express the pleasure, the excitement of how that joy impacts our heart. And you see, when we're willing to align with what we love and to align with what brings us joy, we naturally shine the light of who we are. Have you noticed that for yourself? It's easy. When we love doing something, when something brings us joy, we naturally feel some kind of alignment. We're in the flow, and we welcome life. It's really one of the points that I really wanted to drive home today, that with peace, love, and joy, and the support of our faith that lets us step out in new ways, these are all qualities that open us up. They're receptive qualities. They're qualities where we can say yes to life. And we begin to experience how then that supports us as the Christ is invited to be born in us in new ways. For you see, the metaphysics of that are the Christ is simply being born into a new awareness of who or what we are, being invited into experiencing ourselves with capacities that we never knew we had, or being invited to transcend something that's really hurt us or been holding us back in the past, and giving us the strength to be able to look at what is painful, and in that, to be able to transcend it and transform. So are you willing to begin to trust what you love? So much of our guidance is inviting us into living a life out of love and joy. Now, joy is not the same as happiness. At least from a spiritual standpoint, we make a distinction. Happiness is a goal that most of us get attached to. I know in my 20s, if I said one thing, I said it. If I said it once, I said it 1,000,000 times. I just want to be happy. And it's a place where we want to land, and then when we find those things that we're happy, we just want to hold on to it. We don't want to change. I just want to be happy. In comparison, joy is something that we experience along the path. Joy is what makes us curious and engages us in our spiritual path, because we never know when we go around one corner or peek around some crevice of our consciousness or some crevice of life, what's going to touch us? What's going to bring forth that joy and connect us even more deeply with what we love? And so, are you willing to trust, or maybe better to put it this way, are you willing to loosen your hold on the need to be happy, and instead to open to the possibility that joy is the lens to be looking through? How do we open to joy? Because we all have deep-seated beliefs, we all have identities we live out of, we all have hurts, and they all can tend to block these spiritual qualities. So how do we specifically open to our joy? How many times have we heard the statement, live this life as if it were your last? The challenge with that statement, if you really just let yourself sense into it, is there can be a lot of fear and shame about that statement. One, oh, am I going to die tomorrow? And two, gee, if today is my last, there's so much more that I had hoped to accomplish. So many ways that I wanted to do it differently. So I was reading this week a blog by a gentleman, and I only know he's a gentleman because, I should say a young man. I was able to do a little bit of a search on him. He's a 22-year-old college student in Canada. He goes by the name in his writing, Aristotle. And I think I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right. You know, I even went onto a computer program, typed it in and said, how do you pronounce this? Aristotle is what it came back as. Aristotle makes a very powerful recommendation. Instead of living this life as if it were this day, as if it were your last, to live this life, it's not time for the quote yet, to live this life as if it were the first day of your life. And I want you just to sense into the difference in that. Just sense in, when I say it again, live this day as if it were your first. Do you recognize that you're able to fully let go of what happened yesterday because this is the first day? And it opens us up to that childlike wonder and curiosity. It opens us up to seeing life in a new way. And he is highlighting a very important truth here, that joy and curiosity are inextricable. They cannot be separated. They're intertwined. So often, when we are having the experience of joy, there can be a curiosity about life, an openness, that openness that I spoke about earlier in the talk. Likewise, when we're willing to approach our life from a place of curiosity, it often activates joy. Aristotle says this: instead of running after a perpetually moving goalpost of being happy, I've always instead turned to wonder and curiosity. Those aren't goals so much as a way of living life. And sometimes joy just naturally peeks through, as it tends to do. Isn't that the truth? That's how joy is. It pops up sometimes at the most unexpected times. He tells a story in one of his blog posts that helps you understand why he says, I always now tend to live from a place of wonder and curiosity. When he was a teenager in high school, and as I read through some of the blogs, it became clear to me that he was living in Hong Kong at the time, and he rode public transit home from school often. So something pretty horrific was going on in his life, objectively a very difficult thing. Maybe it was the breakup of his family unit, or he was being abused in some way. He doesn't really tell us, but he tells us the impact, that he was depressed. And one day he got out of school and proceeded to get on the wrong bus. And before the bus even left, he knew he was on the wrong bus, but he couldn't muster the energy to get up and leave the bus. Turns out that this bus was headed to a popular viewing place in Hong Kong. If you've been to Hong Kong, it's an amazing view. You ride up to what they would call a mountain, not really a mountain by Colorado standards, and the view is spectacular. When the bus, ended its route there, he decided to get out. And in that spirit of, this is the first day of my life, he decided to act like a tourist, like he'd never been up there, like he'd never seen the view. And as he stepped to the edge, and who knows exactly what touched him, but something touched his heart. Maybe it was the sheer beauty of the city, or the harbor that you see beyond it, or the vastness, as on a clear day you look all the way into mainland China. But he began to cry. And it was a tremendous release for him. And he says, while I wasn't happy in that moment, the depression softened significantly. And he recognized, wow, I have been depressed for such a long time. And something softened it as I treated this as if I had never seen it before. And so the invitation is, can we begin to look through the lens of curiosity at our lives? Can we approach people, situations, places as if we have never seen them before? Can we be open? And in that openness, to have the joy spring up, as he talked about, in often unexpected but powerful times. Jesus Jesus in the book of Matthew said, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near." Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near. Metaphysically, repent means to change your perspective, change your mind, change the way you are looking at it, change that lens. And isn't it interesting that he says the kingdom of heaven has come near? How near? Right there, and right there, and right there. For you see, essential qualities like joy are always ready to pierce the emotional states we find ourselves in. Always willing to pierce these deep-seated beliefs that we have that hold us back or limit us. Always there to support us as we're willing to take on those deep-seated hurts and pains. I have a good friend who about a year ago took a new job, and on paper it was the perfect job. She was very excited, but it didn't take but about 4 to 6 weeks before she realized that while the job was just what she wanted, the culture of the company was not supportive. There was a lot of victimized consciousness, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of negative merging, where you're just sort of chewing on how bad it is. She said it was just miserable to be caught talking to somebody because all you could talk about was how bad things were. Now, this friend of mine has never studied family systems officially, never talked about organization, never studied organizational structure or culture of organizations, but she has just a natural way about her of seeing the potential when people come together to meet some objective, like we do when we come together in a place of business of some sort. But she also carries a lot of baggage with her. Baggage around, as with all of us, baggage around throwing out ideas when she was a kid and being rejected for them, being shamed for them. And so she didn't feel, she had a reaction when the idea was presented to her, why don't you go talk to the leadership of this company about what's going on? Initially, it was no. And instead, all she talked about was, I need to find another job. This is what happens to us, right? But enough of us continued to encourage her to say, hey, you can always quit, or you might even get fired, but who cares? The opportunity here is to make an appointment with the owner of the business and to speak your truth. And eventually she did. And much to her surprise, the owner knew what was happening, but had no idea what to do with it, and asked her if she had any ideas, and she had wonderful ideas. And as a result of their meeting, he formed a committee with her on the committee to begin to work on changing the culture. Now here's what's amazing. Probably 4 months into that job, she dreaded getting up and going to work. But just after this committee started to meet and they got to implement changes, she jumped out of bed and couldn't wait to get to her office. And if you'd ask her, what's happening at work? Her eyes would just light up in joy. Oh, we're working with this, and you can't believe the impact it's having. Her light is shining bright. Thank God there was some glimmer of light, some curiosity, some sense of joy, which is always reminding us of the potential in her, that she was able to take action different than what she had always believed, that how she would be received, for example, or who she was. It's the same thing with Stuart. When he steps out into our great room and explodes in joy, it's an invitation to recognize, wait a minute, I'm not all these things that I believe myself to be. I am the miraculous expression of Spirit, ready to bring and shine my light. I think that Roger Teal does a beautiful job of summing up joy, again, in his book, This Life is Joy. In this joy is creativity, for joy is the mighty dance of possibility. In this joy is aliveness that nothing has the power to dampen. In this joy is vision, a vision of the greater magnificence of life beyond the squalor created in human affairs. In this joy is oneness and community, for joy unites all in its commitment to exalting creation. In this joy is the heart of prayer, for joy is the peak realization that it is well with my soul, no matter what. Let today be your first day. As we move into a time of extended meditation, I want to play a video that our prayer chaplains put together just in the last 10 days or so, a spontaneous, unrehearsed expression of prayer that we will use
Greetings.
now to lead in.
Greetings. We are the Columbine. Greetings. We are the Columbine Year Chaplain team, and we invite you into prayer with us.
Let's take a deep breath as we move into prayer. Divine love that flows through all of us. Today, we pray to let go of fear and anxiety. We affirm the love that we are and acknowledge the gift of life. We pray to choose to express divinity in our thoughts and our actions. And we bless our Columbine family with health, peace of mind, and abundant love.
We pull our awareness inside and concentrate on Christ consciousness. The 12 powers indwelling in us. Jesus is born in us every moment.
Divine Spirit, we are so grateful for the light within us that's born within us at this time. And it completely fills our lives and our hearts and strengthens and gives power to the divine ideas we have within.
Loving source of all that is, we are coming out of the darkness and we welcome the light and the love that this season brings us, that we are tuned in to our Christ self and we let our light shine on all. And so it is.
In this very moment, in our heart of hearts, we know that conditions and circumstances cannot hinder us from following the star, the illumination of the Christ within, where there is always warmth, peace, beauty, love, and joy.
All the fruits of the Spirit just bursting forth, ripening as we move into the holiday of Christmas and Hanukkah and all the others all around the world celebrating this special time of year. And we welcome whatever comes. We welcome it with a faith and a trust that it is serving us in beautiful ways. And we are grateful for that.
We give thanks for each precious soul now listening to this prayer, now opening their hearts to receive the prayers that we offer unto you, for we are assured that the Christ within you is growing and getting ready for birth, and that Christ energy within each of us helps to create a new world of unity and peace and love for all. Amen.
And as we join together in this space of prayer, we fill our hearts with gratitude, love, and understanding. And because the Christ Spirit is growing within us and is expanding to encompass not only our Columbine family, but all those in the world. And we say thank you. Thank you, because gratitude overflows from us to the world. And so it is. Amen.
This is the time in our service where we take our offering, or symbolically take our offering now. It's a great reminder, though, that this is our opportunity to give as we have received, and a great reminder, too, that we are always in the process of attracting our abundance. And so I invite you to say this offertory blessing with me. God's love has always met and will always meet all my needs. I give freely, I receive abundantly, and I am grateful. And so it is. We have some community news to walk you through today. And while we're waiting for those slides to come up, there we go. So one of them is that you can go to our website to support us, to give that love offering. And we have several ways to give, but the easiest one on our website is to use the donate button. And I'd just like to, we're kind of doing a countdown to year end on our finances. We had an absolutely amazing November, thanks to all of you who really gave and gave generously. And so we started the year pretty much, or started the month pretty much on budget, but each month is, an amazing amount of money to keep this wonderful community going. And so as of this morning, counting all the checks going on to our different modes of giving electronically, we are $14,000 from reaching our budget for this year. And so we would just ask prayerfully for you to consider what you can give to help us finish out the year, and to know in advance that we are grateful. What's next? Christmas Eve. So we have some fun things coming up on Christmas Eve. It's a radical birth and a radical year is our theme. And we wanted an opportunity to bring people together in a safe way. So at 4:30, we're inviting you to come to our grounds, where we will be handing you an electric candle, votive candle. And we will be doing a 35-minute, maybe, what do you think? Maybe, about a 35-minute service, dress warm. You can stay in your car if you like and listen to the service on our FM radio channel, which unfortunately only works about 2,000 feet away from the church, so you can only hear it in our parking lot. But we would love to have you anytime that we have done an event where we get to come together physically with one another. It's been really, really satisfying. So consider signing up. We'd like to know how many people are coming so we can plan accordingly. Then at 6, so about an hour after that service ends, we will do a virtual service without anybody in the sanctuary, but again, filled with wonderful music, great message. We are drawing on stories that members of our community have shared with us of how they've grown during this radical year. From there, we're doing a Christmas Day Zoom. So at 1:30, we usually have a Christmas Day potluck here. Because that can't happen at 1:30, and we invite you to get on the link for the 1:30 gathering, and we will come together and just have some time together. There'll be a little game playing, a little prayer, but certainly a lot of connecting with one another. We're doing a coat drive for Sister Carmen, and it's coats, hats, and gloves, socks. The socks need to be new. The rest, and the gloves, I think they're asking, are new. Coats can be gently used or new. Same thing with hats. And so we invite you to drop them off at the church. Please, if you're leaving them not during our business hours, which are from 10 to 4, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, please make sure they're in plastic so that they can be protected from the weather. Okay, we've got that, right? Oh, no live service on the 27th, yes. So as we were planning and realizing that the 27th is just 2 days after Christmas, we thought, wait a minute, we need a break. The congregation can use a break. So there will be no service on Sunday the 27th. And let's see if we move beyond that. Oh, good. And so, yes, so then we're moving into our Burning Bowl service, which will be on the 4th of January, although I'm going purely by memory. Is that what the Sunday is, Janice? Do you remember? I think it's like the 4th. Yeah. And so we're going to do it a little differently. Usually we invite you into the sanctuary.
Actually, it's the 3rd.
It's the 3rd. We'll be getting this. Thanks, guys, from the sound booth who can look at something other than their memory. So usually we invite you all into the sanctuary. We do a wonderful ceremony with flash paper that is safe to burn inside. But since we're going to be doing an outside fire for the burning bowl, we, invite you at 1:30 today to come and pick up a kit where you'll get everything you'll need for the burning bowl. But for the, and of course, we want you to mail in your letters that we can mail back out to you. But for the burning bowl, because we can have an outside fire, we're inviting you to send an email to our admin email, admin@columbineunity.org, or you can email Rachel at Columbine. And if you put Burning Bowl up in the heading, we will not read what you write. We're going to fold it up, put it in an envelope, and we're going to burn it that day out here for you. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, you're invited to the 12:30 service where that will happen. But we're going to continue on with our services as we usually do, just modifying them for this time. Whitestone will happen the Sunday after that. And again, if you pick up a packet, in the packets, they will have a white stone for you to use for that ceremony. But the truth is, if you can't get here, any stone will work for the white stone. Fellowship every Sunday, of course. After this service at 12:15, you can come together and talk about the service, connect with one another. It's a wonderful opportunity. The link is in the bulletin that you received just before the service. If you are not receiving the bulletin, all you need to do is go on our website and sign up. If you were signed up and have somehow been dropped, reach out to Rachel at columbineunity.org. Is that it? Oh, amazing.
Amazing. We're going to sing the peace song together, and then we're going to let our dear friends from Unity on the Bay in Miami take us out this morning. Thanks so much. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God watches over us. The presence watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Take it away, Maestro.
Joy to the world, the Lord InJoy. Takes away